All right, so you sent over this interview with someone training in conversational hypnosis. And
It's a really interesting method.
yeah, it seems like it really caught your attention.
It did. Yeah, and it's developed by Virginie. Did you know that?
I did not know that, no. But it seems like you've been digging into this.
Yeah, with this idea of, using these subtle, almost like unconscious signals to help people change, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, and what I found interesting about the way the trainee describes it is it doesn't sound forceful at all.
No, not at all. It's really about gentle guidance, you know?
Not making someone go into a trance against their will or anything.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more about helping the client tap into what's already there.
Their own inner wisdom.
Exactly. Yeah, not imposing a solution.
Right, and she talks about noticing these unconscious moments that happen in a session.
Yes.
These little cues that most people probably wouldn't even pick up on.
Right, and that reveal what's really going on.
So what kinds of things are we talking about here?
Well, visually, it might be something as small as like their eyes darting back and forth
Sure.
or a far-off look, like they're trying to access a memory.
Yeah, yeah.
And these are such small things that most people wouldn't even notice them.
Right. It's like when you're trying to remember something and you kind of look away for a second, like everyone does it, but you don't think of it as like an unconscious cue.
Right, exactly.
It just happens.
And then they're the auditory cues, so
Oh, so it's not just visual.
no.
Okay.
It could be the way they're speaking,
Mm.
like a change in their pace of speech,
Mm-hmm.
or they might pause more often,
Interesting.
repeat words. Even nervous laughter can be a sign.
Wow. It's like their body betrays their true thoughts, even when they're trying to keep them hidden.
Yeah, you could say that. It's like they're giving us these little whispers from the unconscious mind.
And you have to be paying attention to pick up on those whispers.
Exactly.
Now, she also talks about the importance of silence and how hard it was for her to resist the urge to fill the silence.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
What is it about those silences that's so significant?
I think, when you think about it, silence can be really uncomfortable,
It can be. Yeah.
especially in a conversation. We feel this pressure to fill the space.
To keep things moving.
Right.
Yeah.
But those pauses, they actually allow the client to go inward.
So it's not just about awkward airtime.
No,
Mm.
not at all.
Mm.
There's something that researchers call the default mode network in the brain.
Okay.
And when we're silent, that network activates, and that network is linked to like self-reflection, processing emotions, and even generating creative solutions.
Oh, so by embracing those silences, by not jumping in and directing the conversation, she's actually creating space for the client to access this deeper level of self-awareness.
Exactly. And it's in those moments of quiet reflection that I think true breakthroughs can occur.
That's interesting because it ties into something else that she mentions, which is that all hypnosis is ultimately self-hypnosis.
That's right.
So even though this sounds like a very casual type of hypnosis,
Yeah.
there's still a real shift happening within the client.
Absolutely. It's just happening organically through the dialogue.
So it's not about the therapist hypnotizing the client.
No.
It's more about the client guiding themselves into a different state of awareness.
Right. And the therapist is there to gently guide the process.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's less about putting someone under a spell and more about helping them to tap into their own subconscious mind.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Now, she tells this really interesting story about one of her clients who spontaneously closed her eyes during a session
Oh, wow.
and seemed to almost shift into a different personality while they were talking.
It's amazing how the unconscious mind works, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
What's going on there psychologically, though?
Well, it's like different parts of ourselves are held within us,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes those parts can emerge in unexpected ways.
And in this case, it was through the safety of the therapeutic relationship.
Right. It sounds like she felt comfortable enough to let go.
Now, that brings up another point that the trainee emphasizes, which is the importance of the therapist's own self-awareness during these sessions.
Yeah, that's huge.
Because their energy impacts the client, whether the client is conscious of it or not.
Absolutely. It's like the therapist is holding a space.
Right.
And the client can sense if that space is safe or not.
So therapists really need to be aware of their own emotional state going into each session.
For sure, because it can bleed over even if it's unintentional.
But this whole idea of being present, listening for those subtle cues, that's not just limited to a therapy setting, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I think we could all benefit from being more attuned to those signals in our everyday conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
Just imagine the potential.
If we are all just a little bit more aware
Yeah,
of what's really going on.
exactly.
It really makes you wonder what we're all missing, just walking around, not really paying attention to those subtle shifts in energy that are happening all around us.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because she talks about how we can apply these principles of conversational hypnosis,
Yeah.
in our everyday lives.
Outside of a formal therapeutic setting.
Exactly. And she even mentions interacting with her kids,
Hmm.
who are naturally in that more open, unconscious state.
Yeah. It's like they go into auto-hypnosis sometimes.
Right, exactly. And she was able to use that awareness to better connect with them.
And help them with whatever they were dealing with.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
we do this instinctively as parents, friends, partners.
Yeah.
We pick up on those nonverbal cues
The shifts in energy.
and we adjust our communication accordingly.
It's like we're all hardwired for this type of connection.
I think so.
We just haven't learned to really harness it consciously.
Right. And that's what I find so fascinating about it. It's not some
Yeah,
superpower. It's a skill that I think we can all cultivate.
absolutely. Now, going back to that client who seemed to shift personality,
Yes.
how does a therapist even navigate that? If someone suddenly seems like a different person, do you just go with it?
Well, I think it's important to remember that the therapist is also, in tune with their own internal landscape.
Okay.
They're holding space for whatever arises,
Right.
but they're not just reacting blindly.
So it takes a lot of trust in the process, I imagine.
I think so, yeah. Trust in themselves and in the client.
Because you're dealing with these really delicate, unexpected moments.
Absolutely.
It really is a dance, isn't it?
It is a dance.
Like the therapist is gently leading with questions, paying attention to all those subtle signs.
Right.
And the client's unconscious is leading the way,
Exactly.
revealing what needs to be addressed.
It's a different kind of language.
It really is a language that goes beyond words.
Beautifully said. And it made me think of how she talked about traditional hypnosis, which often relies on structured protocols and scripts.
Oh, right. Like a set way of doing things.
Versus this, which is about stripping all that away and being fully present with the client's experience.
Mm-hmm. So less about the script, more about the connection.
Exactly.
And being adaptable,
And responsive and really attuned to each individual client, because no two sessions will ever look the same.
And what's interesting is even though it sounds less formal,
Yeah.
she actually found that it made her a more effective therapist overall,
Real.
even when she wasn't doing conversational hypnosis.
Interesting.
Because she had learned to listen differently.
To listen differently.
Like she wasn't just hearing the words,
Yeah.
but she was also tuning into the energy behind the words.
The unspoken emotions.
Yeah, those subtle cues that can reveal so much more than what's actually being said.
I love that.
It's like she unlocked a secret code of communication.
Right.
And what? I think that's something we could all benefit from.
Absolutely.
Not just in a therapist's office, but in our everyday lives.
Imagine the misunderstandings we could avoid.
The connections we could make if we were just paying closer attention
Exactly.
to those subtle signals.
I think so. And,
Yeah.
she's just starting out.
It's amazing to think about
Really is.
how much more she'll be able to do.
Yeah. Where this will go as she continues to explore and refine these skills.
It's an exciting prospect.
It really is. It speaks to the power of curiosity, I think, and just being open to new ways of understanding ourselves and the world around us.
Because we often think of hypnosis as this mysterious practice.
Yeah, like it's this strange thing.
Right.
But what if it's just about tapping into a deeper level of awareness
Right.
that we all have access to?
It really does make you wonder what we're missing, just in our everyday interactions.
It's like we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's this whole other level of communication happening
Right there, just below the surface.
that we're not even aware of. And speaking of deeper levels,
Yeah.
she talked about wanting to get better at using metaphors and stories in her sessions.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like as a next step she wants to take.
Yeah.
What's the value of that in conversational hypnosis?
Well, you know how we were talking about how it's so tailored to each individual client.
Yeah.
Some people respond really well to logic and, direct suggestions,
Right.
but others really connect with that symbolic language.
Uh-huh.
Stories that kind of bypass the conscious mind and speak directly to the subconscious.
So it's like finding the right key
Exactly.
to unlock each person's unique potential.
I like that. And it sounds like she's already thinking about how to incorporate those tools.
That's great.
Yeah,
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
it has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of conversational hypnosis,
Yeah, me too.
but it's given me a lot to think about.
What stands out to you the most?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is this idea that we all have this capacity for
Yeah.
deeper connection and communication.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to learn how to tune in.
Right.
and pay attention to those subtle cues.
Be present.
Yeah, be present. And, those cues are always there.
They are. It's amazing what we miss when we're not paying attention.
It really is.
And that's what's so exciting about this work, It's
Yeah.
not about some mystical power.
Right.
It's about harnessing a natural human ability
That we all have.
that we all have, exactly.
So for anyone listening, maybe this deep dive has sparked your own curiosity about this.
Yeah,
About the power of subtle communication.
absolutely.
So as you go about your day, just see if you can notice those unconscious moments in your own interactions.
Yeah, pay attention to the energy.
The little cues, those signals, both verbal and nonverbal,
You might be surprised by what you discover.
about yourself and about the people around you.
Exactly. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
This was great. Thanks for coming on.